So I'm so excited to have Heather on tonight. We are just going to be talking about her story and some different things that she's learned in the process of this business. And I'm so excited to hear from her. She kind of flies under the radar. And so I think that a lot of you guys probably haven't heard her story. And so it's always nice to see a new face and just hear from somebody else. So Heather, I'm going to kind of let you take it away and just paint a picture for us of what your life looked like before the business. Oh, sorry, I muted you.
Yeah, there we go. Hi guys. Well, first of all, Kelsey, thanks so much for having me on. I'm super excited about this. Anytime that I can get on and just, share my story. I think for me, like, I know when I came into this business, the first event I went to at conference and hearing people's stories, like that was a shifting moment for me. And so I always get excited to talk about my story. So I've been in the business almost 3 years. June will be 3 years for me. And before it works, I wasn't one of those people who thought I needed this business. I had a good job. I went to college for 9 years. I wasn't like a brain surgeon or anything like that. I was just one of those people that took the long route. But I did have a good career. I was working full time as a dental hygienist and loved what I was doing. And I was making pretty good money. But with that being said, because I had gone to school for 9 years, I was drowning in student loan debt. So even though I was making good money, I had the career from the outside, everything looked really good. I was so limited on what I was able to do. Pretty much everything that I was bringing in was going right back out the door to bills and mostly student loans. My student loan repayments were over $1,000 a month, and it didn't leave a lot extra. I have a passion and a heart for traveling. I love to just be on the go and be doing things. And, I thought I was the first person in my family to go to college. And, my parents just kept telling me, go to school, get the degree, you'll have it made. But that wasn't my reality. I woke up at 28 years old. I was living back home with my parents. I couldn't really afford to live on my own. And I was just like, is this it? Like, is this going to be my life for the next 20, 30 plus years until I can get these student loans paid off? Like, how am I ever going to afford the house? How am I ever going to afford the family? How am I ever going to afford to travel? Like, who knew I was going to have to ask permission to take time off to travel, right? Like, that was a no-go. And I just felt kind of like stuck. It was like Groundhog's Day every single day, like waking up to do the same thing over and over again, and nothing was changing. And I couldn't see the end. Like, I couldn't see where the turnaround was going to be.
So I love that. I love that. I relate to that so much because it's like everybody from the outside can see, dang, like, okay, she's doing well. But on the inside, you're kind of like, wait, I didn't expect this to be my life for the next, 20, 30 years. And I think the idea, and when people paint this picture of the American dream and getting a job and doing all this, it looks so different than the reality of it is. Like you said, the Groundhog Dayness of it all. Like, I felt that on a spiritual level when you said that, because I just couldn't do that part of it. That part was like so obnoxious to me. So how did you find the business, and what really kind of like was that turning point? Because I think it's, for some people, it's an additive thing where, it can be multiple things that kind of added up, but it really kind of explodes in one thing. What was that for you?
So for me, it actually was almost a year before I jumped in, from the time that I saw the opportunity before I said yes. So a girl that I had gone to high school with, she had jumped into the business. And at that time in my life, it was actually kind of a shifting moment. I live in Maryland. My mother was in North Carolina at the time, and she had had some health issues. And like very unexpectedly, we thought she had had a stroke, and she was by herself in North Carolina. So thankfully, it was not a stroke. She's fine and healthy now. But I chose to leave and go to North Carolina within like 4 days. And I pretty much moved down there. I rented a house for a year. But I was not certified to practice as a dental hygienist in the state of North Carolina. And it was going to be about 3 months until I got that license. So in the meantime, I was about 1 week every month, I would drive from North Carolina back to Maryland, where I was licensed to practice. I would work for about a week, long enough to make enough money to cover my bills, and I would go back to North Carolina. And during that time, this girl I had gone to high school with, she was probably about 2 months into the business, and she saw that, what I was walking through. And so she reached out to me and said, hey, I really think this could help you. And I was like, no, I'm good. I got this. Like, I had no interest at all. She even went as far as like sending me free product to try. I never tried a product. It sat on my counter. Like, I had no desire. But by her doing that, it did kind of spark my interest, and like I grew a little bit curious. And so I caught myself, watching her over the course of this year. And, I started watching her really thrive and succeed in it. And I'll never forget, I was, making this commute, driving from North Carolina up to Maryland. And I remember seeing her post a picture of her on the beach working her business. And I was like, gosh, what I would give for that. Like, that looks amazing. And in the meantime, she was paying off debt. And here I am, drowning in debt, not getting ahead. And finally, after it was about 11 months, at that point, I had moved back to Maryland over the course of that year. My mom, her health improved. And I actually ended up meeting my fiance on one of those weeks that I was up here for work. I ended up meeting him. So after a few months, I came back to Maryland, and he's a teacher. And so we were living together at that time. And I remember it was about 2 weeks into his summer break, and I was walking out of the door to do my normal, hour and a half commute to work. And I would call him on his lunch break, and I'm like, hey, babe, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm going to go kayaking today. I'm going to do all these things. And I'm just like stuck in this cubicle in an office, working. And I was like, gosh, like what I would give to be able to have the days off with him. And so the company was running a promotion kind of like we have right now, where there was a discount to join. And I finally was like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Maybe I could work this business on the side, save up some money to either, put towards my student loans, or maybe shoot, just to like have the freedom to take some time off next summer to spend with my fiance and be able to travel. And so that's all I was really looking for, a couple $100 a month to really do whatever I wanted with. I didn't come into this, saying I wanted to go debt free. I didn't come into this saying, I wanted to retire from my job. Like, I just wanted flexibility.
So I love that. There's a couple of things that I want to point out. Number one, the fact that you watched for a year. And so people who get impatient with the business, it's kind of like, okay, well, it takes some time. And I heard this, and it's so true that something life shifting happens every 9 months for people. And there's so many things that have happened. I mean, even thinking about, your time in the business, it's not only, did your mom got sick before this? That was the shifting. Then the next shift was when you met your fiance and were in a relationship. And then, even since then, you've gotten engaged, you've been planning a wedding. There's so many life stuff that have happened. And I think that timing is key for people. But the fact that the other thing I want to point out is that she believed in you so much that it almost made you believe in yourself. The person that was like, oh my gosh, like I'll even send you free products. And I'm not saying that that's what you have to do for people, but just saying, dude, I really think you could do this, like, to people. And when you say that to people who are curious about the business, it plants a seed in their head to be like, dang, maybe I really could do this.
A
um,
100%. It's funny that you say that. I just want to tag on to that for a second because, I have so many distributors that have been partnering with me that have come from months and months of follow up. And a lot of times I ask them, like, why now? Like, what made you say yes now? Like, once I've got them in the door and like, I know, like, we're setting them up, we're doing training, we're doing all this stuff. And I just ask them because I'm curious. And a lot of times it's one of those two things. Either they've had something in their life has changed, maybe something with their job situation has changed. Maybe they've just recently had a baby and their maternity leave is coming to an end and they're like not wanting to go back to their job and leave their babies. There's so many different things that happen. And the number one thing that they tell me is I never gave up on them. And they knew that if I wasn't going to give up on them with the follow ups and always, having that belief in them, that I wouldn't give up on them when they partnered with me. And it's so super important that you're continuing to stay in touch with those people and follow up with them. And I'm always very adamant about, with my potentials and making sure that I'm going and like interacting and engaging, just being a friend. It's not every follow up isn't just, hey, like, are you ready to partner with me? It's like, hey girl, how was your weekend? I saw you guys did this. It looked amazing. Where was that picture taken at? Or whatever. And just building relationship.
I love that. I love that so much. And so right now, so tell us how you got from there to joining to being nervous to join to just winning a couple extra $100 to where you are now, Presidential Diamond.
So, I kind of was off to a slow start. I had like a holy crap moment, which most of us I think do. Like I mentioned, I joined, it was late June. And so I wasn't really dedicated to business the first couple of months. It was summer, it wasn't a priority to me. I did get my shopping spree, I did have some enrollments. I didn't even understand at that time. So my enroller actually quit the month after I joined. The girl that I followed from high school, I actually didn't enroll with her. I actually ended up enrolling with somebody else with her permission. I had gone to her and she said, "Hey, this other girl we'd gone to high school with, I ended up enrolling with her," and she quit the month after. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was signing some customers, I was signing some distributors. I didn't know there was such a thing as a chart. I didn't know you could move people. And so I was just kind of doing my own thing because I was too stubborn to ask for help. I was too stubborn to go to the next person and say, "Hey, you know what? Like, my enroller's not here and I need help." And because I didn't do that, I kind of just floated around for the first like 3 months or so. And when September came, Bill went back to work. I kind of had a little bit more time to be focused. And I thought, okay, like our team was doing weekly Zooms and I never had showed up to one. I was like, they're not important. Like, I don't want to spend an hour on my Sunday night, before I go back to my work week, like on a meeting. And so it just wasn't a priority to me. And I finally realized I was like, okay, like, let me show up to one of these meetings. Let me see what's going on. And I got plugged in. And I tell people all the time, like, if you want to go up, you got to show up. And so I just started showing up. I started asking questions. I started like not being stubborn and asking for help and knowing that that was okay. And so I went a little slow by, I think it was month 5, I had gone Ruby. And then I kind of tied and died because when I joined, like I said, I only joined for a couple $100 a month. I didn't have a vision beyond that. And so when I got there, I was like, cool, I did it. And I didn't have a desire to push for more until I went to conference. You guys, if you have never been to a conference, I know we still have like almost a whole year until the next one, but start thinking about going now because I went to conference. Um, and it changed everything for me. I was sitting at Ruby for a few months. Like I said, I didn't have a vision really past that. And when I went to conference, that's where I heard the stories on stage and I was in this arena filled with people that were just so inspiring. And I will never forget, there was a dental hygienist on stage who had retired from her job. They were a full-time family, like living this dream life. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just got the vision. I can't explain it. It's just a feeling that you get. And I came home and I was just like, I was so hungry for it. I was so hungry. And I just said, quitting's not an option. And like that was off the table. And I was like, I'm going all in. I'm going to make the temporary sacrifices and do whatever I have to do because that was the beginning of February. And I knew I had a few months till summer got here. And at the beginning when I joined, I kept thinking about having some freedom over the summer. And I was like, this is it. I'm gonna leave my job by summer. Like by June, I'm leaving my job. And I just made a decision and quitting wasn't an option. I went all in. I did all the things that I knew that I needed to do that I wasn't doing. I lied to myself for a long time and I was like, I'm doing all the things. It's not working. What's happening? But I wasn't doing all the things. And if I was, maybe it was here and there. I wasn't consistent. And I think too, a lot of it was the belief. I think the lack of belief held me back from doing the things that I needed to do. Like I would hold back from sending the messages or asking for the host to post because I didn't believe that people would want to do it. And so like a lot of it came from self-development. That's when I really got diligent about every single day pouring into myself, doing self-development, building that belief in myself, building that belief in what this company could do for me, and just making a decision to go all in and never quit. And so that's what I did coming out of conference. Like I said, I was barely hanging on to Ruby. And I remember I was so excited that year at conference. Mark had announced at conference that first time Emeralds would be eligible for the $5,000 bonus. And I got so stinking loud about it with my network. And I was like, I'm going Emerald. I'm going to earn a $5,000 bonus. Like I was doing Facebook Lives, which I was so uncomfortable doing. I was doing everything and I was so loud about it. I was claiming it. I was speaking it into existence. I was working for it. I was doing all the things. And the end of February came and I didn't go Emerald. And I was devastated. I remember just thinking, that's it. It's not going to happen. And I was just crying, and I was talking to, my fiance, and he's like, well, you have two decisions. You can throw in the towel and walk away and be like the 85% of other people that do that, or you can be like the 15% of people and say, you know what? It didn't happen then, but I've come too far and I've worked too hard that I know if I keep going, it will happen. And I decided to go with that option because, again, I had said the beginning of February quitting wasn't an option. So I had my moment. I cried about it, and I remember thinking, I'm a dominant blue. I don't know if you guys know your color personality, but I'm very emotionally driven. And so for me, when that moment came, I was like, how am I going to face my network? Like, how am I going to get on a Facebook Live March 1st and say I didn't hit my goal? Like, how do I move forward from this? How do I keep going? Who's going to want to partner with me now because I failed, right? Like, that was my mindset. And I just had to dig deep. I had to pour into myself, self-development. I had to have my leaders pour into me. And I remember just coming out March 1st, and I was always honest with my network. And I remember just owning it. And I was like, yeah, like, listen, this hurts. Like, I didn't hit my goal, but I'm not going to stop because I wanted to show people that so many of you guys set goals for yourself, and it doesn't happen when you want it to, and you decide to quit. But I'm going to show you that you can keep going and you can still make it happen. And I inspired people to like want to keep going, and people seeing me not quit and keep going made them confident in partnering with me. And I remember that first week in March, I enrolled like 9 distributors. And so March came, and not only did I go Emerald that month and earn the $5,000 bonus, but I also went Diamond that month. And like, you guys, imagine had I quit on February 28th when I didn't hit the goal because I didn't think it was going to happen. I would have never saw Diamond. I went from Ruby to Diamond in 1 month. And then I was like, game on, like, I am going. And so again, I just knew like June was my date. May came, and at that time I knew, like, for me wanting to leave my job, like, my goal was to go double Diamond. At that point, I felt like I was bringing in a full-time income. I could walk away from my job once I went double Diamond. And so I think it was the second week of May, I put in my notice that I was going to be leaving on June 19th. And at that time, I was still a diamond, and it was just all in faith. And I knew that if I put it out there, like, God was going to make it happen. And June 19th, I clocked out of my job for the last time as a double diamond. And we spent the whole summer traveling. That's when I started paying off debt. But there was a time during that ruby to double diamond, like that 4 to 5 month stretch, you guys, like, it wasn't pretty. It was hard. It was a lot of sacrifice. Like I said, I was still working full time up until the point that I went double diamond. So, I was commuting 2 to 3 hours a day to my job. I was working all day with patients. I couldn't be on my phone other than my lunch break. So I just had to find times to work the business. If that was on my lunch break, like, that was strictly working the business. If that was on my commute to and from work, I was sending voice memos. I was listening to podcasts and doing self development. When I came home, most nights I was working my business for multiple hours when I got home. Bill was bringing me dinner, and I was just, some nights I was up till 1 a.m. and I was back up at 6 a.m. to go to my job. Like, it was a sacrifice, but it was temporary. And because I made the temporary sacrifice of my time, I was able to create all the time just a few months later.
That is so good. So, let me ask you this. So, looking back, did you think ever, like, is this gonna work? Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I still think that sometimes.
I love it. I love it. And I think so often, people will be like, how did you do it? What did you do? Like, how many posts did you get up, or how many whatever did you do? And what would your answer be to that?
Gosh, I don't think you can give a number to that question. For me, I know some people say, oh, well, my goal is to, send out this many messages or send out this many host to post requests every day. And for me, like, I don't work with that mentality. Like, my mentality is, like, I'm going to get, say you say, like, I'm going to get 10 people to host a post for me today. That doesn't mean that you send 10 messages asking for a host post. Like, I don't stop until, if I send 10 messages and not one of them does a host a post, I'm going to send 10 more. And if they don't, I'm going to send 10 more. Like, I'm going to keep going. Like, my goal is to enroll customers and enroll distributors. And so it doesn't matter if I send 50 messages. If I'm not like, if it's not an income producing like task, like my job is not done. It's kind of the mindset that I have. But yeah, I mean, I have those moments where probably not so much now, but in that transition, like you guys, I had people quitting, I had people walking out. The people that were with me that got me Ruby, they weren't the same people that took me Diamond. And, you know, it was a lot of transition. It was a lot of feeling like everything was falling apart. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
it took me months to build this. Like, how am I ever going to build to that? Or I also remember another really like challenging thing for me was when I was putting in all that work to go diamond, to go double diamond. And I kept thinking, like, gosh, if I have to put in this much work to get there, how much more work am I going to have to put in to go beyond that? Right. And what I didn't realize were a few things. You know, once I was able to go double diamond, I was able to walk away from my job. So then I had more time to invest in it. And to be honest with you guys, like the work has never changed. It's the same work that I do today that I did when I was a Ruby. It's just now maybe it's the numbers have increased, right? So maybe the number of follow-ups I do now is more than the number I did before. Like I do the same 5 things every single day to grow my business. And now it's just a larger quantity, I guess, and obviously a little bit more leadership, but the work never changed. And so I think you kind of go through this like, you know, you're working really hard and you're putting in all this work and maybe you're not seeing that much money and you're like, okay, is this really worth it? Like that's what I kept asking myself. But then you hit a point, especially when you go diamond and you start unlocking those cabs and those additional bonuses, that the work doesn't really change, but the income catches up to it. And so, like, I had to just keep reminding myself of that, like having a vision board, like reminding myself of my goals, like I said, mindset, and just being close to the fire, being around the people that were supporting me. I had some of the people closest to me not supporting me, especially when I decided to leave my job. I'll never forget my parents. Like I said, I was the first one in my family to go to college and get the degree. And they were like slightly devastated. They're like, what do you mean you're leaving your career to do this business? Like, how are you going to throw away 9 years of college to go do this thing from your phone? Like, it's not going to last. It's not going to work. And like, that was really tough to overcome and to hear and to say, you know what, like, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to like prove them wrong. Right. And now you guys, like, my stepmother is in the business with me. My dad's a customer. My mom's a triple diamond. Like the people, some of the people who doubted me are like now with me in this business. And so sometimes you just have to prove it to them and prove it to yourself.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think it's so true because sometimes like in what I my answer to people when they say like, what did you do? I'm like, I just did whatever it took. Like, I don't know what I did, to be honest. I just did whatever it took.
I kind of feel like I blacked out for a few months. It was
Yeah.
kind of just like, I don't know. I don't know if it was like sleep deprivation or what, but like it is kind of a blur. Like I look back now and I'm just like, what was I doing? But I know that I was just doing whatever it took, like you said. Like I just had to get the job done.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I love that, like, because I do believe that the work always looks different, but it's like the same amount of like the work that you think of like from a six list. Like, I mean, now you might have TikTok, or now you might have host to post if you didn't have it, or now you might have Instagram stories. I mean, the work for me has always like, it's always changed, which is something I love because I don't want to do Groundhog Day.
Right.
Like I don't want that same thing. But now I just get to love on more people through the process, right? Yes, there's more leadership, but like there's also more people who want that, like who are really fully committed to the process, and that you get to see that growth happen. And so I know there's times for everybody when they feel like, is anybody ever gonna want it the same way that I want it?
Yeah.
How did you deal with that, especially being blue, being kind of emotionally driven and feeling frustrated with that because we're paced as blues, and once we make a decision, like it's game over, right? So how did you kind of handle that and grow into leadership?
So I started shifting a lot of my self-development when I got around the ring. When I got diamond, I was like, I don't know how to lead a team. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know how to lead myself, I feel like some days, right? And so I started just really being intentional with what I was doing for self-development. I started reading books on leadership. I started listening to podcasts for leadership. And I started just duplicating what I had done. I think a lot of it for me was just casting vision for people, like constantly casting vision, constantly being connected with my team, building like
So
relationships and
let's break it
trust.
down like super basic level. When you say casting vision, what does that look like for you? I
So
think it's like this term that's kind of thrown around and people are like, what the hell? How do I cast
yeah.
vision? What does that look like for you?
So first of all, like when anybody from the time that I start talking to a potential distributor, I want to know why they want this business or why they need this business. I think knowing somebody's why is so powerful, not only to get them, plugged in, but once they are plugged in to be able to, talk them off the ledge when they're having a tough day or to help cheer them on to go towards their goals. So for me, casting vision is like I have multiple notebooks of just lists of people from when they've joined, what their color personality is. I always want to know that so I know how to speak into them depending on their color personality. Because the way that I'm going to speak into a red is going to be very different from a way that I speak into a blue or green or a yellow. Like it's just very different for me. And that's something that I just had to grow and learn in and fail at a lot. Like you guys, it is I failed as a leader. I still fail. And like it's okay. And like I own it. Like if I do something, like I'm very open with my team. I'm like, listen, like I might have made the wrong car. I might have said the wrong thing, but we learn how to work through it. But I think for me, knowing their why and knowing their color personality, being able to help guide them towards their goal and like casting that vision of what life will look like when they reach that and why they're doing this and reminding them of that because there's always going to be days where we don't feel like working or maybe we feel like quitting and I'm able to go to that person and speak to them based on their color and talk to them about their why. Like, girl, listen, like I know you're hurting right now and you want to throw in the towel, but is that going to get you closer to being able to pay for daycare for your child? Is that going to get you closer to being able to come home with your child? How can I show up for you and help you move forward? Here's a great podcast to listen to today. Like there's so many different things that I do and it's just constant communication and making sure that I'm touching my people as often and as much as I can. I think for me that's the biggest thing, just showing up for them because for a long time, when I didn't have the belief for myself, I relied on somebody else to believe in me. So just constantly believing in them and like building those relationships. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the best way that I like to describe it is really reiterating and painting a picture for if they didn't give up, if they kept going, what that could look like. Like I remember there's a double diamond on my team, Annie, and she's from American Samoa. And I remember the first time I talked to her, I was like, dude, you're about to build an empire over there. And like, I'm sure that's not even what she was thinking because she just wanted a couple $100, but now she truly like is. And like, she has this amazing team and like, it's crazy to think about. And it's just like
Yeah.
really painting that for yourself. And I remember, when, because Erin Tweed's my enroller, and she's like that, but it's so much more subtle. And she'll just say stuff like she would say stuff like, when you quit your job or when you do this. And I was like, oh, like she thinks
Yes.
I can quit my job. Like, and like all of these little subtle things. It wasn't this big like hype city thing where she was like, dude, you're about to do this and you're about to do this, and you're about to do this. It was just so subtle. And then like I started to paint my own vision of like when I'm on the white couch, like when I'm speaking on stage, like when I'm doing these things. And you start to change the language that you use with yourself and the pictures that you create in your mind, because that's what our mind does, right? Is they create pictures. So I love that. I think that that's so good. So tell us about one of the toughest lessons you've had to learn in the business.
Oh my goodness. There's been quite a few. One of the toughest. You can't want it more for people than they want it for themselves. I think for me that was really, really, really hard. Like I said, I've lost people throughout my journey, and some of them were people that I had friendships and relationships with prior to this business. And, you know, regardless of what relationship I had with them before this business or when they came into this business, my heart is always like when people partner with me, they're trusting me to help them. And I remember feeling like when people were wanting to quit or walk away, or the people that did quit and walk away, I took it so personally, and I was like, I failed them. And I want like every person that partners with me, like I want them to be where I am right now. Like I want them to be I want them to be ambassador diamond, like black diamond. Like I want it so bad for my people. And then I had to realize that like I can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves, because I will like literally dig myself into a hole. And I had to, as a blue, it is so hard because you are so emotionally invested and it hurts so bad, but I don't even know how I've gotten stronger in that. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it still hurts and it's not easy. I guess I've just learned to accept that not everybody's gonna want it as bad as I do, and not everybody's gonna want it as bad for themselves as I want it for them.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's something that everybody deals with. You know, because it's like you see so much in people and you see their potential. And, you know, I remember one of the hardest things I had to learn just to piggyback off that was not to let that determine the way I saw new people who came into my business. Because I think that often we can take the pain and really kind of guard ourselves and not show up for that next person because of what has happened from the previous person, right? And you're like,
Right?
oh gosh, I hope this person doesn't quit. So I'm just kind of not going to invest as much time in them, or I'm just kind of going to expect all these people to quit. And that's like the worst thing you can do. And I heard somebody say, I would much rather expect everybody to be my next diamond than expect everybody to fail. And I think that that's just the way I looked at it, is I'm willing to take the risk of getting hurt a little bit, that I truly believed in somebody. Because the last thing I want to do, and I hope this is everybody on here, like this is the last thing you should want to do, is have somebody join your business and then feel like you didn't believe in them.
Mhm.
And because like you can never believe too much in somebody. And even though it hurts if they don't fulfill that or live up to that or whatever, that's not your job. All your job is to do is to love on them, is to believe in them, and to show up for them every single day. So I think that that's so important.
When
So
you also like, I also had to learn too that, sometimes it would hinder me in thinking like that I wasn't going to be able to achieve my goal because I lost that person, right? And so you have to know that like there's going to be somebody else that comes in. Like I look at everybody as I'm talking to them, like when I'm nervous of sending that message to somebody to ask them, or offer the opportunity to them, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, like what are they going to say? And I have to remind myself like that person could be my next diamond. And just because somebody has like walked out on the business, that doesn't change like my vision. That doesn't change my goal or where I'm going. Like if that were true, I would never get to where I want to go, right? And so you can't base like your trajectory on somebody else's.
I think that that's so true. And then another thing, you know, that I feel like has really it's one of those things that you don't really know that it's happening until it's happened. And it's just understanding that people can sometimes be there for a season. They can be there for your whole business, or they can be just there for a second. And it's okay. And sometimes if it's a pattern, you want to look at it and you want to say, maybe it is me. Maybe there is something I'm doing wrong. But if it's, you know, not everybody, then you have to realize that sometimes it's just them and the timing's not right, but you have to love them where they're at. I know I just felt so frustrated with some people, and it came really from selfishness. You know, it didn't come from a good place. Like, yes, I wanted it for them, but I also wanted it for them because I wanted to achieve my goal. And when you come from that place, people can just be viewed as like pawns. And so it's really important to look at them as people. Um, and to start caring about what they want and asking them,
Yes.
what do you want? And I always say, like, if you want somebody to go Ruby, make sure you're just truly connected to what they want out of it, right? And reminding them, like you said, of this is what you want. Like this is how let's go accomplish this together. So I love that. What
That's
would
super powerful. Can I add on to that really quick? Because that
yes,
just struck
girl.
a chord with me. So I remember when you were saying the what do you want? I remember going to um I think it was a green carpet, and Denise Walsh did this whole we were at like a training, and she was doing this task where we were sitting knee to knee with a complete stranger, and we were just asking them, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And I remember like that hitting something for me. And I remember coming home and it shifted, and I was like, man, like I'm so focused on where I'm going that I did, and you guys, like I was guilty. I had some casualties at the very beginning because I wasn't invested in what they wanted. I was only focused on what I wanted and where I was going. And when I started turning around and swimming down and making it more about my team, as I was helping them reach their goals and invested into what they wanted, I naturally was going to get to where I wanted to go. And so it stopped being about me for a moment. Yeah, of course, I still had my goals and my dreams, and I looked at my vision board every night and every morning, and I knew where I was going. But I knew in order to get there, I needed to help people. And so it really just became about helping people and like what did they want, like knowing their why, and like it was just this ripple effect.
And I remember I wasn't there, but Morgan Martin told me about this, and she was saying like it was so crazy some of the stuff that was coming out of her mouth because it was stuff that she didn't even know that she wanted, because it was just almost like it activated like your subconscious and things that you were so scared to even like say out loud. And she was like, people were just asking, what do I want? And I was like, top 10. And she was like, wait, did I even say that? And like, it was just like, it's so crazy because sometimes we push what we want down to meet the reality. And in the truth of the matter is if we do that, then it's just going to continue to keep our reality the same. So I love that. I think that's really powerful to continue to ask yourself what you want, even as you move up in different levels. So what do you feel like right now is really beneficial for your business? Like what's working for you right now? Like where are you finding success?
Host to post is always like good for me. I'm starting to explore TikTok. I've had it for a little while now. I haven't enrolled anybody through TikTok, but I am noticing that my following is increasing. I think that people, even though I haven't enrolled anybody, I'm getting eyes on me through TikTok. So that's been good. But host to post, as far as customers, I don't use host to post for myself. I don't use host to post for the business opportunity. Just getting really loud, you guys. Like now, for me, I would say most of my enrollments this month have come from follow-ups, because it is that time. We're all walking through this kind of unforeseen thing right now, and so I have definitely had a higher month with enrolling distributors over customers, just because I think that so many people need this opportunity right now, and we have the incentive for them to join for half off. But all the customers that I'm signing essentially are coming from host to post. For me, that's just, I would say probably monthly, like that's where most of my enrollments for customers come through host to post. Um, I'm in my stories every single day, just sharing my day-to-day life. I think that the most important thing you can do is share you. Marketing yourself, people want to partner with and they want to purchase from people that they know, like, and trust. And so if you're not sharing you and who you are, and like right now, like be a light of hope for people, like be a light of positivity and inspiration. Like people need that so much. And people want to partner with people who are confident, who are uplifting, who know where they're going. Like get loud about where you're going, you guys. Like it's so funny because through the month of March, I'm getting all of my time hops from 2 years ago. And remember, like at the end of February, I was crushed. I ended as a Ruby. I didn't promote to Emerald. I didn't earn the bonus. And I'm seeing all the posts that I was putting up in March from 2 years ago. And I was like claiming Diamond. Even though I had just not gone Emerald, I was now like, shoot, well, if I'm not going Emerald, I'm going to aim for Diamond, right? And so like I was so loud about it. And I was so confident that it was going to happen. And I think that like for me, most like I do get enrollments from messaging people, but a lot of people do come to me because I'm just so loud and so confident and so positive about the direction I'm going. I'm sharing every single win. I'm sharing what our team is helping people do. Listen, I remember when I first started and I was like, well, I don't know what to share about. I'm not making all this money. I'm not paying off debt. Like, what do I share about? And I shared the vision. I shared about where I was going. I didn't wait till I got there to talk about it. I shared where I was going and I took people on the journey with me. If that was the journey of, losing a few pounds, or the journey of being able to make a couple $100s a month. Like I talked about how this opportunity was going to help me get there. And I shared the highs, I shared the lows. When I shared the lows, I always ended with a high note, something positive, but just being loud. Utilize host to post. Don't be afraid to send the message, because like I said, you never know if that person is going to be your next diamond.
It's so true. And I love what you said about sharing the vision, because I see you do that a lot on your Facebook. And just kind of elaborate how you do that. Like you have, it's not just your team, it's the whole team, that you are talking about, that you're representing. So if you're coaching a newbie on how to post that, how do you typically coach them on that?
Well, first I have them start by posting, getting loud about their why. right? Because I always like remind them that, listen, like you're not the only person in this situation, and you now have the platform to help somebody else that's in that same situation. And so it's not saying, if you join to make, $300 to $500 a month because you want to be able to, pay for daycare, you want to be able to pay a bill, or you want to be able to pay for groceries and gas, or maybe you want to make a payment on debt. Like, you start talking about it from day one, and I actually have like a little calendar that I send them. And so every day it's something different. So like maybe on Monday it's something motivational. And then on Tuesday it's like their transformation Tuesday, right? So like what's one thing that has happened in the last week to help them towards their goal? If that's, maybe it's a mindset thing, maybe they've grown some confidence, maybe they've lost a couple of pounds, like whatever it is, like every single day I try to help them find a way to share a little different angle, but there's always a mission, right? Like there's always one like solid thing that they're talking about, or maybe one or two things that they're talking about. And then when they achieve that goal, then it's on to the next, right? Like what's next? You don't want to tie and die. And so um I think just you have to know like what you want. And if you don't know what you want, you need to know what you don't want anymore. And so usually when they first join, I have them make two lists. List A is all the things that they're tired of. What are you tired of? Why did you join? You know, uh, what makes you sad? Like what do you wish was different in your life? And then list B is all the things, if time wasn't an issue and money isn't an issue, like what would your life look like? What are the things you'd want to do? What are the things that you want to achieve? How do you see your life? And so I have them use those two lists to kind of make their post. We use a template called Pastor, and it kind of like helps them write a post where they use that pain and that hurt and that thing from list A, and then they talk about, but because of this opportunity, I am going to be able to boom something from list B. And so it's not necessarily saying it's happened yet, but this is what I'm working towards.
That's so good. I love that. And just being able to realize, like I always say, people are motivated by one of two things, or both. So you're excited about where you're going, or you're running from where you came from. Like you have like a healthy level of fear of like, I don't want that current situation that I'm in, or what situation I've gone to in the past. I know that I have multiple ones. So that's amazing. So what do you do, like I know you're always posting about like we've helped so and so people promote, so like
Yeah.
helping helping people understand how to post about other people's promotions.
Yes. So I always encourage my team. Like we're very loud in like our group chats and things like that, and our team page when we're shouting people out when they're promoting. And I encourage my newbies, to share that. Like they are a part of this team. And I remember when I started, like I wasn't, I didn't have 23 people promoting on my team, but maybe our tribe did that month. And so I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so fired up. Our tribe just hit our the 23rd promotion so far this month, 23 more families. Because listen, like you are a part of that. And like I always say, like operate with honesty and integrity. Like you never want to claim that you have something that you don't, but like every single one of you on here are a part of this team, right? Or a part of your all's team. And so, if you see a sideline like doing something amazing, like shout her out. If you see somebody in your upline doing something amazing, shout them out. Like it's okay to share like what you are a part of, because none of this would be possible without all of us together, right? And so like you get to own a spot in that, and you get to talk about. Now I think there's a difference in coming in and saying, oh my gosh, I'm making $500 when you're not. Like that's not what I'm saying to do, but I'm saying like share what's happening around you, like share what's happening in your team at large, and share like how that's building belief in you. And because here's the thing, like if people are coming in and partnering with you, they're partnering with your team at large. And so you get to expose them to that.
And that's so true. And I think that that's one of the like most underrated things, because people want to see that the people who are partnering with you are successful.
I was just going to say, people want to see that it's working for other people than just you. There was a moment in my business where I was like, I'm winning, me. And I was like, how come nobody's partnering with me? And it's because I was only sharing me. And like, I'm not saying don't share you. Sharing you is so super important. But I needed to start sharing the culture of our team. I needed to start sharing the bigger picture, like what we were a part of, like that it wasn't just me winning, that we had dozens and hundreds and thousands of other people with us that were winning. And like, people need to see that. They need to see if you're helping somebody on your team do something, like talk about that, shout them out. If you're seeing somebody on your team or your upline doing something, like talk about it, shout them out, like you're a part of it.
It's so good. So good. Okay, final question. What would you say to somebody who's interested but not committed?
Interested but not
Like
committed. Well,
they've joined, they're
okay.
interested, right? They're on the Zoom, they're watching the replay, but they haven't fully gone in. What would you say to somebody?
So I would say first, like, remember why you joined and what you're running back to if you don't take that next step forward. For me, that was always kind of a smack in my face of what was I running back to, right? Like, obviously there was a reason I said yes to this business because something was lacking somewhere. And is that something going to be fixed if I don't keep moving forward? If probably not, right? You're going to be going back to right where you were. And so I would say that, remember why you started, do some self development, reach out to somebody. Listen, I'm not saying you don't have to face it alone. Reach out to somebody and like get on a Zoom and talk it out because I can guarantee you, your upline, your sidelines, like whoever it is, like they will be there to help see you through this. I would not have gotten here without leaning on some people along the way. Sometimes you just need people to help walk through it with you and just don't like that's it. Like don't walk through it alone. Like if you're feeling that tug at your heart, like, man, you know what? That was me the first 3 months. Remember, like I wasn't doing the things. I was kind of just coasting along and I made a decision and I just reached out and I was like, I got over myself. And I was like, listen, like you know what, I really do want to make this work. And I'm so lost. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I know I'm a few months in, but like, I'm ready to start, if it's day one, like, let me, like, what do I need to do? Just ask the questions. What do I need to do? How can I show up? How can I get to that next level? And just lean on the people around you to help you. I know that you guys have such an amazing team and I know that everybody would be there to lift you up and help move forward with you.
I love that. I love that so much. This was so good. Thank you so much, Heather, for
Yeah.
spending your Monday night with us. I know you could have been doing a lot of other things. It's month end. It's crazy, but I just want to let you know that we appreciate your time so much. And I know so many people had aha moments. I want to give out a shout out to Mackenzie and Kelsey for having your video on. I know Gabby did too earlier and Ashley, but I so appreciate that. And I know Heather does too. I know how it can be when like you're looking at the people who are at the top of the video and you're like, yes, like they're actually listening. I can see them.
Yeah.
So I love that. But thank you again, Heather. We love you.